Hi everyone, it's Eve Angeline here at etrailer, and today we'll be taking a look at our Kuat Sherpa 2 bike platform rack here on our 2010 Toyota FJ Cruiser. So the Kuat Sherpa is a great bike rack when it comes to the middle of the road bikes. So not your super heavy bikes, not your fat tire bikes, but if you still want a bike rack that can or gives you like the premium capabilities you'd expect from a Kuat bike rack, without the super high price tag of, let's say, the Kuat NV, you would go with the Kuat Sherpa. Now our FJ Cruiser right here has an oversized spare tire, so we are kind of limited when it comes to bike racks that can fit into the hitch. So it is really nice to see that the Kuat Sherpa is one of the few that does. So we'll take a look at one of the features, which is that this bike rack can tilt away. To do so, you pull this lever right over here, and you just drop this down to a tilt. And you'll want to do that if you want to access your trunk on your vehicle. In the case of our FJ Cruiser though, you can see that our spare tire as well as our door only comes out so much. So not like you can't completely open your door as if you can if you had a full swing, but you have just enough space to kind of reach in there and grab whatever you need from either the netting or inside the trunk. So just keep that in mind. Not full access, but still more access than you would get from a bike rack that does not tilt away. To bring it back up, you just bring it back up and it snaps into place. Now let's talk about the way our bike is mounted to this bike rack. So this has a weight capacity of 40 pounds per bike. If you have heavy electric bikes, probably not the best fit for you, but most of our bikes here at etrailer are within the 40-pound weight capacity. And you have two ways that it holds onto your bike. The first is this front wheel mount. So it holds your bike by the front wheel. I personally am a big fan of that style for bike racks, especially compared to the traditional hook that comes down and holds it by the frame. If I had a carbon frame bike, probably not the best fit. But also if you have alternate frame bikes like your women's bikes, your children's bikes, your step-through bikes, having it mounted that way means you don't have to get a frame adapter bar. Now over back here in the back wheel, we have the rear wheel strap. So this holds your wheel down and keeps it secure. And when you want to take your bike off, this is where you start. So you press that lever and you lift up on that strap, and you kind of leave it to the side as much as you can so it doesn't get tangled up in your spokes. Then you come over here to the front. Now before I continue, one thing to make sure of is if you do have a shorter bike or a kid's bike, you probably won't be able to load it over here closest to the vehicle. You'll have to go to the outside cradle just because of where your handlebars sit. Now the pedals are fine because you can move them right where they don't hit the wheel, but be mindful of your handlebars. But anyways, to continue taking the bike off, hold on to your bike as you do so, press this button, lift up on that front wheel clamp, push that out of the way, grab your bike, and then you are ready to go. Now I'll just leave this bike over here to the side so that we can take a closer look at our bike rack. So we have this rear cradle, and this tilts back and forth to accommodate different wheelbases. You also have a groove on the inside, and that's going to be compatible with different tire widths, but the maximum tire width you can fit on this is up to 3 inches. Now you do have this extra thick strap. This goes back here and ratchets down to secure your rear wheel. Now over here in the front, we have our front wheel cradle, which is this right here. So this folds down just to be a little bit more compact and minimalistic. Then you have this hook, and this ratchets down to secure your front wheel as well. This folds down. Now since we do have this on our vehicle with an oversized spare tire, I do recommend opening it up just a little bit so that it clears our front cradle or our rear cradle. That's going to give you the best clearance with your spare tire. Now let's talk about clearances and take some measurements. So here on our vehicle, no matter what accessory you have on the back, some length is going to be added to the back of it that you're going to have to think about. So we're going to measure from our bumper all the way to the end of the bike rack, and it sits at about 35.5 inches. So that's a decent amount of length. It is nice to know that our hitch pin is almost aligned with our rear bumper, so that's going to help you out with figuring out how much length is added to the back of your FJ Cruiser. So whenever you're backing into your garage or trying to park into a tight spot, don't forget that you have your bikes as well as your bike rack behind you. Let's talk about ground clearance. So ground clearance will be measured from underneath the tray to the ground, and it sits at 26.5 inches. Then underneath the shank to the ground, it sits at 18.75 inches. So that's a really good ground clearance, but again, we're on an FJ Cruiser. It's kind of what you would expect from this kind of vehicle. But when you do go up steep inclines like driveways and hills, it's nice to see you really don't have to worry too much about ground clearance. I'll take another really quick measurement unique to this car, and that's going to be clearance with our spare tire. So measuring from the shank to the bottom of our tire, it's going to sit at 9.5 inches. So that's going to be the height that you'll have to think about when you do have your bikes on there. You're going to have to clear that spare tire. So let's fold it up just to see how that works. So fold it up by pulling this lever, lifting it up, and folding against the vehicle. Notice again how I do have our hook a little further out. That way we just barely clear our tire. So we'll take some measurements again. The closest point is going to be right where this hook is and our tire, so it just barely touches right over there. But as for our contact with the vehicle, it's going to be, closest point will be this front hook to the bumper, and we have a clearance of about 7.5 inches. Now the length added to the back of our vehicle is now going to be from the bumper to that anti-rattle knob. It's going to be about 17.5 inches. So big difference compared to when this was folded down. This is definitely the more portable position. One thing to note with it folded up is that your backup camera on your FJ Cruiser is going to be right here. So it's not going to block the backup camera, but you'll definitely see it. Now our taillights are obviously visible. Our license plate actually fits right between our trays there, so that's also visible if you look straight on. Now let's talk about how this fits into our hitch. So this has an anti-rattle knob, so not a bolt. When you do want to tighten it down, you just pop it into your hitch, and then you have this hitch pin and this lock. This lock is key to the cable lock that comes with this bike rack. That way you only need to use one key to access both your bikes and the bike rack itself. Let's put this back there. But once this anti-rattle mechanism is tightened down completely, let's do a quick shake test. You can see as I shake our bike rack around, you can kind of see the vehicle moving as well, and that shows how secure that fit is between our hitch receiver and our bike rack, making for a smoother ride for your bikes overall. Okay, so my final thoughts about our Kuat Sherpa is I'm really glad to see that it does fit around the spare tire. Yes, it does come close in the folded up position. Also, if you have bikes with shorter handlebars or if you have clearance issues with those, they may not fit. This is an oversized tire though, so if you have just like a stock spare tire, you'll probably get a little bit more clearance. But all in all, with our ground clearance as well as how compact the bike rack is, I think it's a really nice fit if you don't have extra heavy bikes, extra small bikes, but just your normal bikes. You just need to carry them from one point to another. So that was a look at the Kuat Sherpa 2.0 2 bike rack, which comes in black, gray, and pearl here on our 2010 Toyota FJ Cruiser. Here on our test course, we'll start by going through the slalom. This is going to show us the side-to-side action, which simulates turning corners or evasive maneuvers. Once we get to the alternating speed bumps, we'll see the twisting action. This will simulate hitting a curb or a pothole or driving over uneven pavement. Now lastly, we're going over some full speed bumps, and we can see here the up and down action, and this will just be like driving in and out of a parking lot, garage, or driveway. So we can see here how the bike rack moves with our truck.